So lately, the Path of Exile Reddit has been getting flooded with post after post talking about how Scourge isn't rewarding enough, especially compared to how difficult the content can become with the more Scourge stacks that you get. And every single one of these posts has tons of upvotes. So there's obviously a group of people, and probably a very large group of people, that feel like Scourge is just not rewarding enough. I know that anecdotally speaking for myself, I have probably the least amount of currency that I've ever made through the entire campaign and into early mapping. There are obviously things you can do to help alleviate this problem by doing things like heist or other league mechanics that get you more currency. But if the solution is to do other league mechanics and ignore the new one entirely, then isn't that a problem? Or could it be that just players don't know how to make currency with the new league? I'm sure most of you know who Grimro is. But for those of you who don't, he's a player who tends to juice up his maps, and he knows how to make a lot of currency in Path of Exile. He recently said on Twitter that he's been testing a bunch of Scourge mechanics on his downtime with another Path of Exile content creator. And he said the mechanic is looking pretty rewarding even in low tier maps. Probably one of the more complex leagues to figure out, but keen to share results soon. He then posted a picture of all the scarabs he got out of a T4 map with one tier of Scourge. And there's been other content creators that shared the same sentiment. As Medea said, so many noobs on Reddit complaining that league mechanic is not rewarding enough. It literally doubles the monsters in your maps and gives you infinitely scaling quant and rarity multiplier. Hello? And Shack Central, which some of you might be more familiar with, quote tweeted this and said literally doubled maps for free from beginning to end. If this doesn't make you happy, best option is to straight up uninstall because you'll never be happy in PoE. Yes, there are minor legitimate concerns, but to read the front page, you'd think GGG added a blank league mechanic. As I said earlier, I have yet to see all this currency that these people are referring to, but I've been going through the league fairly slowly. I'm not juicing or scourging maps or red tier maps quite yet. That being said, it does feel a little off going from Expedition and Ultimatum and Ritual into a league where you virtually get nothing for doing the league mechanic. Obviously, this is just doing the league mechanic bare bones though, and as I said before, juicing the map and adding Scourge modifiers to the map itself could yield you way more rewards. As a matter of fact, somebody made a lengthy post on Reddit basically saying just this. They said that the rewards they Scourge are not the Scourge items, but the maps that you Scourge. So every 3 to 5 maps doing the Scourge mechanic, you can do a map with a line of rare Scourge monsters drop X additional X. And you can farm 10 to 30 C on these low tier maps without any problem. This is where you'll get your currency, increase your chaos per hour, etc. This person goes on to say that you should have or be buying low tier uniques that cost like 1 chaos and scourging those as well. This is something that I wanted to touch on personally. It seems to me that the Kranglenator is more suited towards unique items, because unique items for the most part are easily replaceable. So if you pick up a unique item, you scourge it and it bricks the item, well yeah, that was 10C, 1C, whatever, you can just get another one. Even if the item you had was 2 or 3 exalts and you scourged it, well, you can still get that same item, generally speaking, again. But if you're trying to scourge a rare item that you may have spent 20, 30 exalted orbs on crafting or just outright buying, then the risk is way higher because you're trying to scourge a one-of-a-kind item. And this is where the Scourge mechanic is more for the 1%ers in Path of Exile. The players that are going to have a ton of currency to play around with, the players that have been playing day in and day out, and essentially just have a lot of extra stuff that they can risk in their Kranglenator. And depending on how you look at this could be a good or a bad thing. If you're a casual player who doesn't really get more than maybe 15 to 20, maybe 30x a league, then you most likely won't be using the Crucible on your rare items all that often. But for the few slots on your character where you're using unique items, you could use it on those, and potentially get a lot of benefit from doing so. And at the same time, it also gives the top 1% of players a lot to aspire to. But this leads us into our next topic, which is just the Scourge modifiers themselves. There have been a ton of posts from people that are complaining about the difficulty it is to get good modifiers or good Scourge modifiers on items, and that the weighting for them is very off. Not to mention the fact that a lot of the downsides that have higher weightings can essentially brick the item completely, making it so you can't even use the item. And oftentimes that is what you'll end up with, is an item that you can't use. So there's all this risk involved with very little reward on the other side. I've seen the argument from quite a few people that you might as well just double corrupt the item, because your odds of actually getting something good are much better. And I kind of agree with that. My primary use for the Crucible at the moment has just been using it to get 6 links, because honestly the mechanic itself doesn't really drop me anything. And as I said before multiple times, that could just be that I'm not scourging the maps or whatever. Another common complaint about the Scourge mechanic is just how difficult they are. But this was actually addressed in a post on Reddit recently by Bex, the community manager. Someone made a post titled, "Defenses aren't actually buffed if new mobs are balanced around everyone using them." They said, "I feel like GGG didn't actually buff defense at all. Sure, spell suppression sounds great, but when new mobs do upwards of 20k non-crit damage, spell suppression isn't a new option, it's a necessity. To feel as tanky this league as I did in previous leagues, I actually invest in more defense and roll more items for pure defensive stats than before. Honestly, I think this is just what GGG wants from you, and this is what they've wanted you to do for quite a few leagues now, especially with a lot of the nerfs in 3.15. So it's no surprise to me that this is kind of the direction that we're heading in. That being said, I still think that the Scourge mechanic is way too overtuned, which is pretty typical with every new league. But Bex's response here was, "We're planning to reduce the power level of some of the Scourge monsters. I don't have the exact details just yet, but my hope is that we'll be able to share more information in official news posts soon." So we at least know that some of the Scourge monsters will be getting nerfed. Obviously, this doesn't make the league any more rewarding or any more engaging, but it might bring more players back into messing around with the Scourge League mechanic and figure out how to make it a profitable experience. I personally am just in the middle with all of this. I feel like the Scourged items that drop on the ground are not worth looking at. It would be nice if they reduced the amount of them that dropped significantly and added the Loot 2.0 system to them. That way, when I at least saw one or two, I'd be more tempted to pick them up and look at them. As for the currency rewards, as I said before, I have not messed around with the Scourged maps much, and there's probably a lot to be learned still. So while I do feel like a lot of these posts on Reddit are coming from a place of love for the game, I think it's just too early to say whether or not these mechanics are rewarding or not. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this. How do you guys feel about the new league mechanic? Do you think it's overtuned? Do you think it's unrewarding? Or do you think we just need to learn more about it? Make sure to let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, let me know by giving it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe for more Path of Exile content.